Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Wednesday, it's August 24th. We're going to talk about the 10 late games here. The morning slate kind of mixed up. You know, you got one game early, four games in the middle of the day. It's just what I'm seeing tournament wise across the industry. I felt like it was just better to break down the 10 games in the late slate. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to have our man here, Derek Carty, join us and talk some cash game strategy. And, I'll be crazy and have some tournament plays as well. So how you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's an interesting slate. I felt when I was breaking down the slate that pitching is really interesting. And I know that you like Rich Hill a lot. So I'm interested to talk about him in the game against the Giants as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about Hill. I think he's just gonna, if he's healthy, he's just gonna dominate the whole rest of the year.
Yeah, that's always the question, though, right? Like, you always have to worry about, coming back from an injury.
Absolutely, especially a blister like that. Like it has a serious effect on pitching. Obviously, I mean, you need to grip the ball to throw the pitches the right way. So I'm very curious to watch him tomorrow and see how he looks, or today rather. We record this the night before.
Yeah, everybody knows that by now. So it's good. If you guys haven't checked out fantasydraft.com, make sure you guys check them out. A lot of stuff going on Fantasy Draft for NFL. They have a $25,000 5-week Super Survivor where the top 70% advance each round. My favorite tournament for baseball. I'm super excited that they're doing it for football. And they're doing it big. They're doing 25,000. We've seen it 2, 3, 4,000 for the baseball. So 25,000 for week 1 of NFL. Make sure you guys are checking that out. Check out all the baseball stuff and use promo code Grinders. That way you guys get incentives here at Roto Grinders for Fantasy Draft for free for a year, and you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. We're going to talk Fantasy Draft. We're going to talk FanDuel. We're going to talk DraftKings. We're going to talk everything, but we're going to talk Baltimore and Washington to start the night off, and it's Tanner Roark, Wade Miley. I'm guessing you don't have a lot of interest in either one of these pitchers.
No, I think you could make, I don't know, something of a case for Roark in a GPP, but really it's not a particularly strong spot. So, and Miley, we definitely don't have any interest in.
Yeah, like the one thing I guess you could make the argument is Roark doesn't give up a lot of hard contact rate, like to righties. He has a ton of soft contact to righties, and he's going to get a lot of righty power bats in this lineup. So I guess you could make that argument.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of strikeout upside. Like I'm definitely not expecting him to get trashed today. So, with some strikeout upside, I think you can make something of a case for him, but there are quite a few stronger options.
Yeah, stronger options, I think, is the issue with Roark today. There's so many big upside guys on the slate, so I just don't know if I could do it with Roark, but I could. I don't think this is a spot that I'm necessarily going to stack against him either, because, like I said, not a lot of hard contact to righties, and that's what we see a lot in this lineup.
Yeah, I don't think the Baltimore offense, this is really the spot for them today.
Wade Miley, though, we're not doing Wade Miley here, right?
We're definitely not playing Wade Miley, but he's not a guy that I'm like going to be all in, like picking on either. I mean, he's been bad since joining the Orioles, but he's really not that bad of a pitcher. Like he's below average for sure. He's not good, but he's not horrendous. He really isn't.
Let's talk bats. Anybody that you like here for Baltimore?
I mean, it's not like you're really going to get any of them at much of a discount. If I'm going to take one, it might be a guy like Adam Jones is 3,500 on DraftKings and 6,800 on Fantasy Draft. I don't hate that price, but I think there's better spots for cash games today.
Yeah, the one-off that I'm looking at here is Chris Davis. He's swinging a hot bat right now, hitting the ball really hard, and under 8K on Fantasy Draft. So he's the guy that I'm looking at here against Roark. He's the lefty, where we see these Roark, soft contact rates against righties. Lefties, he's pretty, average. So I think that Chris Davis is definitely in play here as a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see some power upside for Davis today. So I don't hate that at all.
Nationals bats against Miley. He is a guy that has always been, pretty average at best against righties. And Jason Worth and Wilson Ramos kind of stand out to me here.
The righties are the guys you're going to want. and I don't have a problem with Worth or Ramos, but you are going to have to pay a little bit for them, Worth in particular. So, I mean, I don't see a ton of value, but I do think they could definitely get to Miley.
Yeah, one of the name that I wanted to throw out there that I just kind of noticed skimming, over the prices is Kim is only 5,700. If he hits in that 2 spot for Baltimore, I think he's in play as well.
He could be in play. He's a guy though who I like him, but I don't like him, I guess, as much as some other people do. Like if you look at what he did in Korea, it's nothing compared to what he's done this year, and he has kind of fallen back a little bit, and the price has adjusted accordingly. But I mean, I don't know. There's just very little upside with Kim, and his batting average is just it's too high. His batting average on balls in play is so much higher than it ever was in Korea.
Moving on, Angels at Toronto, Marco Estrada, Matt Schumacher. Any interest in either one of these two guys?
No interest in either of them really.
Yeah, I just don't know if this is a spot that we say, hey, we don't have any interest in the pitchers and the batters. It's an interesting game.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of intrigued by batters. Pitchers, I don't know. The pitchers don't do it for me today. But the Toronto prices are kind of nice today against Shoemaker. Like he went through that stretch earlier this year where he was just like elite out of nowhere, where nothing in his history supported it. And now over his last 6 starts coming out of the All-Star break, he's been awful. Like he's basically regressed back to the terrible pitcher he used to be. So I mean, it's hard to know exactly who this guy is right now, but I'm willing to bet he's, even if we assume he's an average pitcher right now. I mean, the prices for Toronto, you can definitely exploit that. You're getting 4,400 on DraftKings for E5 and Donaldson. Like, I'm all about that.
Yeah, I guess I don't hate it. I'm always one of those people that I love picking on pitchers that people think are better than what they really are. So I could get behind that. The problem is when we're looking to pick on Estrada, where do we do it with the Angels?
You do it with Mike Trout, I think, because he's the best hitter in baseball, because he's getting a nice park upgrade from Angel Stadium into the Rogers Center, and because you're not going to have to pay a crazy price for him. He's 48 on DraftKings. He's 93 on Fantasy Draft. And so if you're picking on Estrada, I think he's the guy that makes the most sense to do it with.
The only other guy that I guess I don't have an interest here, if you can kind of get him cheaper, but I'm pulling up his prices here. Yeah, 6,600 on Fantasy Draft. Albert Pujols has always been much better against fly ball pitchers, so I think you could look at him as well.
He's he's very well priced today, and I think Cole Calhoun is very well priced as well. 29 on DraftKings,
56 on Draft.
56 on Draft, yeah. So I mean, even though this is a pretty weak Angels offense, there is some appealing prices against Estrada, especially considering he's a fly ball pitcher in a hitter's park today.
Yeah, I really do like that price on Pujols. I'm going to have some exposure there. Now, looking at the other side, Blue Jays against Schumacher, is there anything that stands out to you here?
I mean, I mentioned the prices earlier. Like E5 is cheap, Donaldson is cheap, Michael Saunders is cheap. I think you can make the case for rostering at least a couple of these guys today.
Yeah, the pricing seems, I don't know, it seems off here in this game. So, yeah, I like the price on Saunders, 6,400. Man, you can get him and Pujols out of this game, and I think you can play them in all formats together.
Yeah, and then for some reason Tulo's the most expensive, which I don't quite get. I won't be paying up for Tulo, I don't think. But I mean, if you find the right spots here, this is definitely exploitable.
Yeah, E5, Donaldson, always a ton of upside with those two guys. Even against right-handed pitching, it doesn't matter too much. E5 has 27 home runs against righties this season. So, yeah, the power is definitely there for these guys. So I don't hate that. Texas at Cincinnati, Yu Darvish, Tim Adelman. Darvish, a lot of upside here for Darvish.
Yeah, a lot of upside here for Darvish. He's definitely my number 2 starter today. There's one guy who I think is the clear one, but there's big upside here. He's going into the National League. He's not going to have to face a DH. Great American Ballpark is a pretty good park for strikeouts. There's a little bit of downside because it's good for home runs too, but I mean, you'd have to think Darvish is going to be in line for a win here for a bunch of Ks. And yeah, I mean, Darvish is a really good play today.
Yeah, like he pitches in Texas. It doesn't get, much worse, going to Cincinnati. Come on. He can handle Cincinnati.
He definitely can handle Cincinnati.
Tim Adelman, though, we don't like this guy, right? Back to the well with the Texas bats.
Yeah, Tim Adelman is so bad. And this is like the ultimate, I don't want to play Texas bats today, but I think I have to. Like Adelman tilted me last week when the Dodgers were such a good play against him and they did nothing. And then yesterday, Texas was so cheap and such a good play, and they did nothing. So today it's like a combination of the two, and I think you have to go back to the well.
I'm with you. I have talked about Texas on the podcast yesterday. And just looking at the Rangers bats, like Odor, 8,100, Desmond, 7,600, Mitch Moreland, 7,600, Carlos Beltran, 6,800. Like, these guys are too cheap again for this matchup in Cincinnati.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, the Beltran price in particular sticks out to me. So it's just, you have to play them. They've been cold lately. You kind of feel weird about it, but the matchup is so good and the prices are so low that I don't know how you avoid it.
What can Tim Adelman do for you is all you have to ask yourself here. Can he fix a cold offense? And I think the answer is definitely yes.
I would have to think so.
Well, we're going to hope so because obviously both of us like him here. Reds against Darvish, you'd have to play like a Duvall or a Votto as a one-off hoping that you get a home run, but I'm not going to do it.
No, I wouldn't play either of those two, but I do like Jose Peraza as a one-off. He's cheap. Darvish, as good as he is really bad at preventing steals. So if Peraza's hitting second as a shortstop punt, he's really cheap today. I like him. I think there's value there. And I think he's sneaky because he's against Darvish.
He's bad at holding runners on, and that's all I had to hear to have interest in Billy Hamilton.
Hamilton as well will be in play. A little more expensive maybe than you want, but I mean he's not crazy expensive, and there is definite stolen base upside here.
More issue with Hamilton, is just always is can he get on base, and that's a lot harder against a guy like Darvish than it is a guy
That's the problem. Yep.
Joe Schmo. Boston at Tampa, Rick Porcello, Matt Andriese. I'm not taking any pitcher against the Red Sox right now. I'm not even taking myself against the Red Sox, and that's saying a lot.
I mean, I was a fan of Archer in GPPs last night, and he turned out very well. But Matt Andriese is not Chris Archer. I would not be picking him today.
Yeah. I know you're more of a larger sample size, but 5 guys for the Red Sox have over a 140 WRC plus against righties this season.
Yeah. I mean, you have to account for context, I think. I mean, part of that is going to be Fenway. But I mean, they are obviously an elite offense.
Yeah, 7 of them have over a 350 WOBA against righties. So, like, you're just not picking on the Red Sox with a guy like this guy.
No, definitely not.
Rick Porcello, we love picking on Tampa. Like, it's just a thing now. They've traded away guys. This offense is just not as good as it was. Like, Porcello is decent, right? Like, his price is just so high.
That's the problem with him. He's just perpetually overpriced. So as much as he is definitely in a good matchup here and probably one of the stronger pitchers of the day outside of the true aces, he's just so expensive. But then again, I don't know. What do you think? What's his ownership going to be like in a GPP? Are people going to pay for that? Is he going to be low owned because he's so expensive? Or are people just going to say, hey, it's Tampa, I'm going to have a couple lineups with this guy?
I've played him his last few starts, Yankees, Arizona, Detroit, and I don't remember him being over 15% in any of those starts on FanDuel.
Okay.
And I guess, like, on FanDuel, like, he's 9,700 on FanDuel, and that's up there and all, but he's won 9 of his last 10 games. You can't predict wins. You wrote an awesome piece on RotoGrinders about wins being overweighted, and, just because a guy's a 250 favorite doesn't mean he's going to automatically win. But when we look at a guy like Porcello who consistently wins and an offense that is behind him that scores a lot of runs, like, there's always that chance that there's a good percentage this guy's going to win.
Yeah, you would have to think he's going to stand a strong chance of getting the win today.
But, yeah, if you guys haven't checked out that piece Derek wrote, it's on the RotoGrinders main page. It's really good about overvaluing the win on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Well, I appreciate it.
Let's talk bats. Boston, sign me up for the 1 through 9. I'm going to say that every day just because this offense is just ridiculous. They're worth a stack every day in tournaments.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with them as a stack in tournaments. In cash games, not as much because I mean you're not getting any kind of discount on them. You're gonna have to pay Fenway prices for them in Tropicana, and that's not something I think I can do in cash games.
The one cash, you know me, I don't play a ton of cash games, but if I was playing cash games on Fantasy Draft, which I do from time to time, Dustin Pedroia at 7,200 in a leadoff spot, guaranteed 4 or 5 at bats. Yeah, I like that price.
He's the one that sticks out to me. Like Mookie, Ortiz, JBJ, even Bogarts. Like they're all expensive, but Pedroia is well priced. If you're going to play one Red Sox one Red Sox, I guess, in a cash game, it would be Pedroia.
Yeah, and then like the Nintendo Benettini, 4,800. He's always one of my favorite punts on Fantasy Draft.
I didn't even notice him. He was so buried. Yeah, he could maybe be in play too.
Yeah, it's just so cheap, and the guy, he just consistently produces in that 9 spot. People get so overworked because he's hitting 9th, and it's not great for cash games, but in tournaments, if he's going to get 4 at-bats in the 9 spot, who cares?
Yeah, I generally hate guys hitting 9th in cash games and don't play them, but I have played Benintendi a couple times because he's so talented and he's so cheap that it can kind of make up for that 9 spot.
What are we doing here with the Rays? We're not going crazy with the Rays, but Evan Longoria consistently has decent numbers. Maybe a one-off play.
Yeah, I wouldn't dislike Longoria as a one-off play. I don't think Porcello is a guy that we necessarily want to pick on, but I mean, Longo, there's always a little bit of upside with Longo.
Yeah, it's very, very small upside in this matchup, but just price per dollar type one-off play, 7,500 on draft for Longoria. He's playable there.
I think Corey Dickerson is well priced if he happens to play and nab a decent spot in the order. I think there could be maybe a little bit of value with him.
Yeah, Porcello does give up a lot of hard contact to lefties, so I don't hate that call. Moving out, Kansas City's in my home state visiting Miami, and Jose Fernandez, Dylan G. Like, Dylan G, like, he can fall off a cliff and I wouldn't care.
Dylan G.
I'm joking.
That is cold. That is cold, Stevie.
There's no cliffs in Florida. That should kind of give you a hint. I was joking.
But yeah, I mean, what do you make of Jose Fernandez? He's really like disappointed people in a few of his recent starts, but I don't see any way you don't play him today in cash games.
I don't know. Like in cash games on FanDuel, I think that I don't know. I think I would play Darvish over him, but on DraftKings where the strikeout is just so much more than the win, Fernandez is definitely your play there, but like his offense behind him, where you need a win on FanDuel, I just don't know if the offense can give him run support.
I mean, it is Dylan G, though.
I know, but Fernandez is going to have to count on himself to hit a 2-run homer, especially with Ozuna banged up now, too.
Yeah, it's a valid point. But,
he left due to a family emergency. He's not even banged up, so there's probably a really good chance he doesn't play tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, so if he doesn't play, then maybe Fernandez's win chances take a hit, especially if he does struggle at all, which these days is possible. But, I mean, you look at him, all of his peripheral numbers look fine. His stuff looks fine. So, I mean, I think we're probably just dealing with a little bit of bad luck for Fernandez, and he has a really strong matchup today. It's in Miami. The roof's going to be closed. It's a Kansas City team that isn't good in an American League context. Now they lose a DH in the National League. They take a little bit of a park hit. They strike out a lot more away from Kauffman Stadium. So I really like the way Fernandez sets up today.
Call me crazy, but is Dylan G an option here?
No, you're crazy. Dylan G is never an option.
But, like, this lineup is going to be so bad. Like, Dietrich went on the DL yesterday. Like, this lineup is just so bad. I don't know.
I mean, I can see it, but I can see it from a run prevention standpoint because as bad as G is, he still will probably do a decent job of preventing runs. But, I don't see a whole lot of strikeout bats in this lineup. You look down at it, it's a bunch of contact hitters. So even if they're not hitting home runs or scoring a bunch of runs, I don't see the upside here.
Well, that was my argument yesterday with Siege about Ventura. Like, they don't strike out a lot, and then Ventura goes out and throws a gem. Like, even though they don't strike out a lot, like, this lineup is just so awful. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna actually like pull the trigger or not on it, but like, depending on what the lineup looks like, it has me thinking. He's 10,000 on draft. He's 5,000 on DraftKings, right?
Yeah, he's 5-1 on DraftKings.
Yeah, like. I don't know. Call me crazy, but I think there's potential for him to get 15 points.
I think the potential for that is there. I think he's going to have to walk a very, very, a very, very tight rope, basically. Like, if he gives up any runs at all, if he gives up 2 or 3 runs, like, his night is done. He's not going to get the strikeouts to compensate.
Yeah, and I think one of the other benefits that G is, like, he usually doesn't walk people either, so that plays into your benefit on a site that you lose points for walks.
That's true.
Bats in this game, like, no, right?
I mean, definitely.
Yelich, maybe?
Yeah, maybe Yelich, but you're not getting him at any sort of discount. You're going to have to pay up for him. I would have a hard time finding a bat here to play.
Like, I love Eric Hosmer. I talk about him. He's underpriced every day, but I'm not playing him in this matchup.
No, definitely not. His price is nice, as it usually is, but against Fernandez, no.
And one other thing we need to note about Fernandez, too, like, this guy has been ridiculous at home throughout his whole career. This could be a good spot for him to get right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good pitching environment, so I like Fernandez a lot today.
Philly at Chicago, taking on the White Sox, taking on a lot of runs in this game. This is probably going to be one of the higher scoring games on the night. Jared Eichhoff, James Shields. I don't like either one of these guys.
No, I don't like either one of these guys either.
All right, we'll start with the visiting team. Philly bats. Anything stand out to you here besides everyone against Shields?
Yeah, everyone pretty much sums it up. The problem is that yesterday against whoever they were against yesterday, I forget who, they were cheap, but not as much today. You're going to have to spend a little more for them.
Yeah, they were priced down because it was Rodon.
Right. Yeah.
Like Herrera, right? Like, that's who we're looking at here. Probably as one of the stronger plays on this slate. Like, on FanDuel, like, he is 2,900 and should probably hit leadoff here.
Yeah, on FanDuel, you said he's cheap on FanDuel, because on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, he's
up there. Yeah,
he's up there. I mean, it's like Mike Trout level price. I don't think you can play Odubel over a guy like Mike Trout.
If you do, you can always play my games. So yeah, he's more of like a site dependent type play. He's really cheap on FanDuel, and I feel like that's where you want to play him. And call me crazy, but like Ryan Howard, I feel like is a great tournament play on this slate.
There's definitely going to be some power upside for Ryan Howard today, so I have no problem with him as a tournament play.
Yeah, we're going to talk about shortstops and second basemen and stuff. Why not go down and save the money at first base and get some high upside second basemen or shortstops?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that strategy when the slate dictates it, so I'm completely fine with that. You know what's really interesting though? I kind of like I like the White Sox side of this better, but on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, the Phillies prices are the expensive ones. The White Sox are downright cheap.
Yeah, I was shocked to see Jose Abreu at 7,500 on draft.
Yeah, I mean, Abreu's cheap, Eaton's cheap. Todd Frazier, God, I hate Todd Frazier. I play him way more than I should because, I don't know, like he's like – on average, he's great, but he's just so tilting because it's like 0 or 20. And, I mean, yesterday the White Sox did so well. Everyone did great, and he puts up 2 points. He's like the only guy in the whole lineup without a hit even. And it's just he's so frustrating. But
next day, they'll score 5 runs and he'll have 5 RBIs.
Exactly. The other day he had like 3 singles, and I'm like, Todd Frazier, where was this yesterday? But
you're not playing Frazier for 3 singles though.
No, you're not. But I mean, for 3,100 today, I'll take 3 singles out of Frazier for sure. 3,100 on DraftKings, 6K on Fantasy Draft. Like, I don't know how I'm going to not play him again today at that price.
Yeah, that's cheap. Melky Cabrera at 5,700 on draft. I feel like that's really cheap as well.
Mm-hmm.
Eaton 7,200. Like you get really good discounts. Tim Anderson had a great game last night. Like you get discounts on these guys here.
Yeah, they're extremely discounted. I think you're going to be able to find a good value player too here for cash games even.
Detroit at Minnesota. Matt Boyd, Tyler Duffy. Matt Boyd, Tyler Duffy.
Yeah, I will pass on both. I will pass very hard on both.
Yeah, well, I had to say the guys that are pitching today are Matt Boyd and Tyler Duffy, and just doing my job here.
Yep.
We'll start with Detroit. They're on the road here. Any of these Detroit bats that you like here against Tyler Duffy?
I think I like Minnesota bats a little more, but you can definitely make a case for some Detroit bats. I mean, Miguel Cabrera once again is fairly underpriced. Justin Upton again is very cheap. So those might be the two guys that I would kind of narrow it down to.
Just go ahead and lock in your JD Martinez home run here. It's happening.
I wouldn't be surprised by it. He's the guy you have to pay the most for, but he's such a good hitter. I mean, I like JD Martinez.
Like Mickey's cheap enough that I think you can play him in cash games too, though.
Yes, he definitely is.
So look at that. Mickey's always one of the most solid, cash game plays. What are we doing with Victor Martinez? Like, at the beginning of the season, I found him so frustrating. I faded him all the time, and it just paid off for me. But I feel like he looks a lot better at the plate right now.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like him, he's older, and he has so many health issues that I think he can just fall into a funk at the plate when he's not right. But it seems like lately he's been, feeling good.
All right. Minnesota, you said you like the Minnesota side more. You have to like Dozier here against Boyd.
You have to love Dozier against Boyd. You're gonna have to pay up for him on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, but on FanDuel, he's always well priced there.
Remember at the beginning of the season when Dozier couldn't hit anything, and then he just is like, "Hey, I'm Brian Dozier. I'm going to remember how to hit." And now he has a 4.46 WOBA against lefties this season.
Yep, I remember that. I remember playing him and taking zeros a few times. And then I was very excited when he finally actually started to hit. And then you couldn't play him anymore because he got so expensive. So that's how fantasy baseball works.
One guy that's been sneaky good against right or lefties this season that nobody tends to play is Grossman. He's been really good against lefties this season. So I have a lot of interest in him here.
Yeah, I used to play him a lot when he was in the 2,500 range on DraftKings. Now he's a little more expensive than I'd want, considering that he most days lately he hits in the bottom third of the order as opposed to at the top. Occasionally you'll see him hitting second, but not as much lately with Polanco up there. So at the bottom of the order, for the price you have to pay for him, I don't love it as a cash game play.
Oh, New York Mets, St. Louis Cardinals, my dude, Jake DeGrom, Carlos Martinez. What do we do?
Circle back for 1 second. We just completely skipped over Jorge Polanco, who is 3K on DraftKings against a lefty. Hitting
my bad.
No, I mean, I think Polanco is just a phenomenal value today. So I wanted to make sure we got that in there.
Look, all that did was it built up his hype a little bit more. Like, because we had to go all the way back to that game. It took forever. We had to take a U-turn. And now, everybody knows just how much you like him because, you threw down the stop pretty hard there.
I did. I mean, he has to be mentioned. Jorge, I've been playing him a lot lately. I'm a big fan of Polanco.
All right. Well, now everybody is going to send you hate tweets when he sucks tomorrow.
I would not be surprised at all. People love to do that.
All right. We'll talk Mets and we'll talk Cardinals now. Just because we slammed on the brakes doesn't mean we're not going to talk about Jake DeGrom against the Cardinals.
Yeah. Are you a big fan of DeGrom today against the Cardinals? Because I'm kind of, I guess, lukewarm on him.
I think that everybody's going to play Fernandez and Darvish, and DeGrom's going to go under owned in tournaments.
I wouldn't be surprised at all about that.
So for that matter, yes, I'm a fan because of he always has that upside. He has that massive game upside. And when we look at, the Cardinals as a whole, like Brandon Moss, high strikeout rate, Jerko, high strikeout rate, Hazelbaker, Pham, Peralta, all these guys, even Gruchek, they strike out a lot. So even though the Cardinals are a good team, they still strike out a lot.
Yeah, I think if he gets the right Cardinals lineup, and especially if he gets d'Arnaud catching him, I could definitely see some strikeout upside here.
What are we doing with Carlos Martinez?
I mean, I don't love him. I like DeGrom a little bit more. I don't see a whole lot of strikeout upside in this Mets lineup, but again, it's another one of those lineups where there's a lot of kind of turnover from day to day. It's hard to know exactly what they're going to run out there.
The Mets lineup can look so ugly on days. I think it's one of those things where we're doing the podcast. It's 11:45 the night before, and we have no idea what the lineup's going to look like.
Yeah, so I mean, yes, it can be a very bad lineup and he can prevent runs, but sometimes the Mets' bad lineups, they don't offer a lot of upside. So it is something to keep in mind. Even if the lineup looks really ugly, it may not be money in the bank.
We have 10 games on this slate. We have two really solid, decent pitchers here. Are we taking any bats from this game?
There really aren't a whole lot that stick out to me, at least not for cash games. I mean, you can make a case for some guys in tournaments as one-offs, but it's not a great hitting environment. It's two strong pitchers. There's not a whole lot to like here.
Well, you can always make an argument for Brandon Moss against a righty in tournaments. Like, the guy has massive upside.
Yeah, so in a tournament, always an option. In cash games for close to 5K on DraftKings, not against DeGrom.
Atlanta at Arizona, Zach Greinke, Julio Teheran. Me and you, we don't like Greinke. We're not big Greinke fans.
I hate Greinke.
I like him the fact that he just let Schimpf destroy him last game he faced him.
Schimpf is the man, and Schimpf owns Greinke.
So yeah, that was good for me. And look at that, Derek just said something about owning a pitcher. That's a little bit of BVP talk. My day is complete. I
meant it more in the trash talking sense than the BVP sense, but okay, we'll go with it.
Listen, I gotta win some of these battles every once in a while, okay? And the thing about Greinke here is he's facing a Braves team that's rolling right now. They're hot.
They are. Honestly, I want no part of Greinke today, and I think Atlanta's super sneaky.
I'm kind of on the same page as you, which is never a good thing. Just kidding. Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. I think Freeman, Kemp, and I think you can even look at Markakis here. Yeah,
I think you can make a case maybe for. Adonis is fairly inexpensive. Anthony Recker, if he happens to be in there, he can maybe be in play as a punt catcher. Dansby Swanson got a start in the leadoff spot over the weekend. I mean, if he happens to be up in the leadoff spot, I think he would be a good cheap shortstop. So, I mean, I kind of think there might be some good values here for Atlanta.
I think that Freeman is just one of the better plays overall on the slate.
He is. I mean, people, I don't know, they kind of overlook Freeman. Like when you think about first baseman, you think about Goldschmidt or Rizzo or Ortiz, but Freeman is just as good as any of those guys, but he plays half of his games in Turner Field. When you put him in Chase Field against a righty, even a decent one like Greinke, he's still going to be a really good play.
And I think another thing that we need to note is I talk about it all the time. He has protection now. He hasn't had that in seasons.
Yeah, having a guy like Matt Kemp behind him, I mean, just from a, I don't know, intuitive, anecdotal standpoint, I mean, you would think it's going to help him.
I'm guessing you don't have any interest in Julio Teheran here.
Actually, I do. Tehran's one of the guys I'm looking at as potentially my cash game SB2.
Oh, you got to sell me here.
I mean, a lot of it is based on the price. He's 7,700 on DraftKings. Part of it too is that I think right-handed pitchers in Chase Field are sneaky plays these days. At Arizona's lineup isn't very good. It's loaded with right-handed bats. They strike out a lot against righties. And Tehran's a pretty decent pitcher. I mean, he's only one start removed from the DL, which worries me a little bit. But I don't know. I think for the price, there's definite value here. And when you look down the rest of the slate, there's no really cheap pitcher you want to play today. And so, I mean, unless you're really willing to spend big on two pitchers like Fernandez and I don't know who you'd go with, a guy in the 9,000 range like Hill or DeGrom or Martinez, I don't know who else you're picking as your SP2. So just kind of by process of elimination, I kind of like Teheran.
To back you up a little bit here, because I'm not a huge fan of him, and then I kind of looked at this a little bit more, but Gene Segura is the only starter for Arizona that has a strikeout rate under 20%.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big strikeout offense. So, I mean, people are going to get scared away by Chase Field. They're going to get scared away because, he doesn't have a great supporting offense and he's facing Greinke, so maybe his win chance isn't that high. But the individual matchup here for Teheran is kind of nice, and the strikeout upside is big.
Just do yourself a favor. If you play Teheran on this slate, make a hedge Diamondback stack.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
No, one other thing. I know you're not a BVP person, but anytime I have a matchup like this, I like to look at it. Goldschmidt's 1 for 14 off of Teheran.
Well, that's always nice if you're thinking about playing Teheran to have numbers like that.
That is not a bad thing here. He could be a really sneaky pitcher. I think I might have found my sneaky tournament pitcher on this slate, and I think we can stack the Atlanta Braves as a sneaky offense on the other side.
Well, you're welcome.
Hey, that's why we do these. Sometimes you miss something.
Yeah, no, and I agree on the Braves stack. I think they're very sneaky today.
Last game of the night, a game that I think you're going to call me crazy. San Francisco at Los Angeles. Rich Hill, Johnny Cueto. I feel like you have to talk about Rich Hill. You're on the podcast. He's making his DL start back. Like you have to talk about him, right?
We do. I love Rich Hill in general. I think he's a phenomenal pitcher. Completely bought into the resurgence this year. I mean, he was always a guy with talent, and he just could never stay healthy. And he could never, at times, he struggled with his control. This year, though, his control was decent enough, considering that his stuff was just amazing. Like, awesome fastball, one of the best curveballs in baseball, maybe the best. And now he's on the Dodgers. And my love of Dodgers pitchers is well documented. Hill is going into the National League as a Dodger. He's going to be throwing to Yasmani Grandal, who is the best pitch framer in baseball. He's in a great park in L.A., a better park than he was in Oakland, because Oakland suppresses strikeouts and L.A. is the opposite. So, I mean, the only real issue here is that he's coming off the DL, that he had a blister issue. We don't exactly know what to expect of him. He threw 75 pitches in a simulated game a few days ago, so I mean, he's going to be a little limited today. I wouldn't expect him to go over 90. But, I mean, lefties against San Francisco are generally good plays. And so I think Hill, as a GPP play at the very least, is definitely an option, especially because he's not all that expensive.
Yeah, I could get behind him as a tournament play, but, looking at his price, I just think he's very risky as a tournament play.
I mean, isn't that what a tournament play is, though? I mean,
yeah, but the risk upside reward, you want risk reward. Like Rich Hill, the risk is 85 to 90 pitches, where Julio Teheran, the risk is a Diamondbacks lineup that could hit 3 home runs off of him. The risk reward. I think you sold me on Teheran more than Rich Hill on this slate.
Again, I don't love the matchup for Hill, and I'm going to be more inclined to play him next time out when hopefully he doesn't have any restrictions. But, I mean, there's always going to be big upside with Hill because his stuff is just so good that there's always going to be strikeout upside. He could go 90 pitches and wind up throwing 5 or 6 innings with 9 strikeouts.
Yeah, that curveball, though. Oh, man, that curveball. From a baseball perspective, just watching that curveball. That's all I'm saying.
So good. It's so good.
What's your thoughts on Johnny Cueto here?
I want no part of him today.
So I'm not crazy for thinking about stacking the Dodgers.
No, I think the Dodgers can maybe be kind of a sneakier stack today. It's not a cash game play by any means, but this is not a good spot for Cueto. The Dodgers are a strong offense filled with really good lefties, and so I don't want any part of Cueto.
A Dodgers team that is finally remembering that, hey, we can hit the baseball too.
Yes, aside from Josh Reddick, yeah. Aside from Reddick,
he's dealing with an injury though. His thumb is bothering him. He shouldn't even been in the lineup.
Yeah.
For a week now.
Yeah.
We just found out about it 4 days ago. Those are the kind of things that drive me insane about baseball.
Yeah, because you watch the guy and you're like, he can't be right now. But you keep playing him when he's cheap and when he's in good matchups, and then it comes out that he's been hurt, and it's like, well, that makes a lot of sense.
You're getting a discount today on the Dodgers bats, and I like it. Grandal, he's going to be the guy that I'm going to turn to a lot, even on draft where you don't have to have a catcher. I love this spot for him.
Yeah, I mean it's as good of a spot as you can get really against an ace. You know, the Dodgers lineup just as a whole works so well against Cueto. So I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, and they're going to be so ridiculously low owned. It's the only 10 o'clock game. Yeah, I'm. Oh man, Dodgers. Me and the Dodgers. I feel like every day I want to stack the Dodgers. I don't know why it's been like that all season, but Adrian Gonzalez 2,700 on FanDuel today. Like, no, why?
That is a nice price for Agon.
Oh, all right. Well, that's going to wrap it up here for this 10-game slate. Before we get out of here, we're going to play some home run derby. And me being so kind, I'm going to let you lead off here.
All right, give me one sec. Let's see.
I know you're not prepared. We're good.
I always forget we do the home run derby. All right, so
You crushed it last week. The last podcast you did with me on Friday.
yes, yeah, I remember. I remember watching, be like, I picked him.
So yeah, you got a little bit of yeah, I just want to put pressure on you a little bit. That's all.
All right, well, I'm gonna go a little, I don't know, non-obvious with my first one, but I really like E5's chances of hitting a home run today against Shoemaker.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be too popular today. Frank Freeman's taken our boy Greinke yard today.
Okay. I'm gonna go with David Ortiz.
Oh man, I feel like this is a running thing between co-hosts. Just how can we tilt Stevie get Ortiz against him? I said this earlier, and I'm really going to stand behind it. I love JD Martinez's chance at home run on the slate.
I like Martinez. And I'm going to do it because I'm probably going to play him today, and I want to get as much like positive momentum working in his favor. I'm going to pick Todd Frazier.
He needs the good mojo, that's for sure.
He really does.
I'm going West Coast. I'm going into an awful ballpark, but I'm going with my man. I'm going with Grandal.
All right.
At the end of the day, if you had to pick one pitcher not named Fernandez, Darvish, I'm not even going to put Greinke. If you want to pick him to win, that's fine. Fernandez or Darvish to win, who do you have here?
So just Fernandez and Darvish?
No, anybody but those two guys.
Yeah, they're the only two that are out of it.
Yep.
Wow, it's kind of tough today. I would pick Rick Porcello, I guess.
Damn it. I feel like he was such the easy call.
Yeah. You know what? I'll give you Porcello. I'll take Marco Estrada because I think the Jays are putting up runs today.
Interesting. I'm pulling up a line real quick. I don't see a line yet, but I was going to say I'll take Tehran against Greinke.
I like Tehran, but I think calling the win is that's a ballsy call.
Yeah, I'm all about that, contrarian life. But yeah, Porcello, if I had to nail one guy under 10K on FanDuel today, Porcello's my guy.
Yeah, he's going to stand a good chance of the win today.
And he's a guy that can get you that 6 to 8 strikeouts and give you that, 45 plus fantasy points. So I don't think Porcello is an awful play on FanDuel today.
No, not at all. I think he's one of the stronger plays of the day on DraftKings and Fantasy Draft. His price is always so high, but he is one of the strongest plays today.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just as long as Texas manages to do something tomorrow, I'll be happy.
All right. Well, I feel like I'm going to be in the same book as you when it comes to that after today. So Texas and Dodgers and Braves. It's going to be an interesting night, that's for sure. But that's going to wrap it up here for the Morning Grind Wednesday edition. Derek, thank you for joining us, and good luck in your contest tonight, guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow.